Here we are at a mobile home park I bought with no money out of my pocket. The seller gave us seller finance, and we're in the middle of renovating 7 of the last units. We're making a decision. Should we go with tiny homes and spend a little bit more money, or should we renovate the existing units? Well, in this video, we're gonna have that discussion, and we're gonna make this a whole entire series so you can see if tiny homes are actually worth it. Guys, we're at 1 Long Acre. It used to be called Long Acre. Then when Jimmy took over property management here, they were calling it 1 acre because they couldn't see the full word long. It was so dirty, decrepit. So many things were falling apart here. How many trailers have you taken out of here? Trash.
Oh,
dumpsters.
We've taken out like 10 dumpsters, 40-yard dumpsters just full of trash.
So we're at a park that we own, seller finance. No money down. By the way, you can do real estate with no money down, no bank, no credit check, no credentials, no tax returns, nobody. I actually have never spoken to the seller one time. I don't think you have. Beau has definitely. The seller doesn't even know who I am. And he's actually been our bank for the last 3 years and will be for the next 27 years or until we refinance. So we've got 32 units right now. 25 of them are rented out currently, producing cash. 7 of them either need to be rehabbed or be replaced. And what we just talked about, this is Beau, our asset manager. This is Jimmy, our property manager. We just had a conversation of what would it cost for us to just put a tiny home in this position instead. So here's what I want to talk about first. What would this cost to get this up and going, this actual unit? After that cost, would this rent for?
Yeah, so we're probably looking at about $15,000 plus the electrical. So maybe a $17,000 to get this remodeled, to get it rentable. And we're probably gonna rent it for between $500 and $600.
Okay, so $500 to $600. If we do that, we don't have to change out the concrete pad. We don't have demolition costs. We don't have to haul this off, worry about that kind of stuff. If we converted this to a tiny home, what do you guys think is the real true cost of a tiny home? Let's say the tiny home we were looking at on Amazon delivered is $8,300. It gets shipped here, dropped here. What are the other costs that we have associated with that?
Maybe finishing out the pad.
Which means tearing out the existing.
Or just pouring the middle, don't know.
You've got to get rid of this bad boy.
You gotta haul it off.
What do you think that would cost?
You're easily at $1,500 to $2,000 to haul it off, trash it, take it to the dump.
$2,000. Let's say you, worst case scenario, you have to haul this off. You're another $500 and somebody chip this up and haul this off the same day probably.
Yeah, you got to take all this out, so another $500 to get the concrete out. So you're looking at, $2,500 for a clean slate. Then whatever that tiny home is, we need to look at the specs. Where does the plumbing?
It's 20 by 20 wide, 30 deep. So it's 600 square feet. Are we putting it on a concrete slab? We don't know. We got to do the research. Beau, you're going to do the research. Yep. Is it going on pedestals? Are we having to pour concrete somewhere? I would imagine we're going to have to pour concrete somewhere. It's not going to go on the dirt, right?
Maybe it has to be elevated, maybe some type of footers.
We're going to have to do some sort of utility reconfig.
Okay, so you've got, let's say concrete, let's say it's $4,000. Let's just throw that out. You've got utility reconfiguration, so plumbing's got to get thrown out. Electrical's gonna have to be ran, so let's add another $5,000, you think?
Yeah, easily. Maybe that's even on the, 5,000 might even be on the heavy side because all the electrical's already in the back, the plumbing's in the back. So if this unit shows up and we can tie in right into the back of the unit, then it'd be a lot simpler.
So when we make a decision on which tiny home to go with, Beau's gonna do research on which one has plumbing and electrical in the back so that we don't have to run everything up to the front, obviously. Okay, concrete, electrical, I think we're gonna have to buy utilities, or we're gonna have to buy, I imagine, the hot water heater. We'll have to buy the air conditioning unit, the split unit.
Probably appliances internally.
Right, so you're probably another, let's say, $6,000 for all that. So we're already upwards of 15 grand. I think you're probably 15 grand for the unit plus install, plus another $15,000 of miscellaneous stuff. So you're 30 grand. It's gonna be double the cost to put a tiny home here. However, what do you think we could rent a tiny home, a 2-bed, 1-bath tiny home for right here in this spot?
Now we were looking at,
$800-900?
Yeah, $800-900. And then of course you're gonna have a nice home that's set here. So then you're gonna wanna do a little bit of landscaping or some gravel.
Jimmy, adding things on
add it all up. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching.
Okay, so let's say we're at $33,000. You can rent this thing for $800. If you rented this for $800, you got that extra $400 spread. Is it worth that extra $15,000 spend? Beau.
Oh, sorry. TBD, right? Your return on cost is going to be lower, right? Because you're not going to double your rent, right? you're doubling the cost. You're going from 15 to 30, but you're not going from 600 to 1200. So you're lower return on cost, but it's still in excess of the cap rate, which says go do it.
But what are the benefits of doing the newer home versus remodeling this?
Probably lower the cap rate, right? You have lower maintenance costs.
Are we getting a lot of maintenance on the park itself?
Yeah, so something new like that, you're less likely to have plumbing issues, you're less likely to have appliances go down or the air conditioner because it's all brand new. So you likely will have less maintenance on it. And if it's really nice like that and it's unique, I think you'd have lower turnover too.
Just overall increases the value of the property. Even though you're not doubling the rent, it makes sense to do. It double the cost.
Now, if you went and did all 7 of these, right? You did this one, you did the pink house, you started doing them here and there over the next, let's say 12 months, 25% of your park is gonna be tiny homes. Do you think that justifies taking the rent on this thing from $800 to $925? You think your whole park is a little bit nicer because you have 8 of them? Or you can't raise your rent to $900 or $1,000 until all of the houses in here are tiny homes?
I think as long as you're improving the property, and they don't necessarily have to be tiny homes for the property to be improved, because we've been able to take some of these park model units and some of these travel trailers and actually make them look nice and funky and cool. So if that's all complete and the driveway looks good and it looks like a finished product, I think you can easily raise the rents there.